Good afternoon, baseball fans, and welcome to episode 31 of Sports Talk with Rags. And today we have ODU alum Matt Quatraro with us, who's currently the bench coach for the Tampa Bay Rays. Matt, how you doing this afternoon?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Sure, no problem. Appreciate your time and being on. Let's see. So what brought you to Old Dominion? I see that you were from New York and you were at Old Dominion from 93 to 96. So what brought you here to Norfolk and be part of the Monarch baseball program?
Well, I had a coach, my freshman baseball coach and my Mickey Mantle coach, the same guy named Jesse Braverman. He was pretty well connected with the high school coaches in our area, and he was adamant that I go to the camp at ODU. One of the other coaches in the area named Tony Curo, he used to bring 9 or 10 guys down every summer, and another guy from the area had gotten a scholarship from coming to camp and being seen, blah, blah, blah. So he convinced me to go to camp. It wasn't what I really wanted to do because I was going to miss my Legion games and all that kind of stuff. But when I got to camp, those were the only people that recruited me were the people that saw me at that camp. And the name you brought up earlier, Jim Farr, was the recruiting coordinator at the time. And he was the one that started that whole process and kind of went from there. And he came to see me play in the spring and when camp was over when I was back in school, back in New York, and that's kind of how it happened.
Right. Yes. And so Jim Farr being recruiting coordinator and pitching coach there for Pat McMahon, and then after the '92 season went up the road to William and Mary, who my brother played for. But when you came to Old Dominion, the Monarchs, they're led by Pat McMahon. I mean, 93 through 96, definitely a great time there for the Monarch baseball program in the CAA.
Yeah, and it was quality baseball then too. I mean, we had several good players on our team. The league had some really quality players throughout. There was a lot of depth, top to bottom. So we were playing quality. We're fortunate enough. I remember aside my freshman year, we had a really bad year weather-wise. So a lot of our games, we didn't play too many games that year, I don't believe. And some of the trips we had got canceled, that kind of thing. But the other years, we played some other big schools. We always played Clemson, and so we played a quality schedule, and it was very challenging. And the CAA was no different.
Right. Yes. And Richmond had Sean Casey and George Mason there with Chris Widger, and East Carolina was part of the CAA. So at that time, so in '94, the Bud hosted the CAA tournament, and your sophomore year, and Old Dominion won the CAA tournament. You were recognized as the CAA tournament MVP, and the Monarchs went on to postseason there as a CAA tournament champs.
Yeah, that was an exciting week. I mean, we had some really close games. I think one of them was 13, 14 innings against Richmond, and we were lucky the wind was blowing in because the guy you mentioned, Sean Casey, hit some balls deep to right that our guys were able to run down. And but yeah, I remember that being a really fun weekend and playing some really quality baseball. And we won some close games. I mean, there were some good games with JMU. I think beating them in the championship game. They had some really talented guys with Juan Dorsey and Macy Brooks and guys like that. And George Mason had Sean Camp at that time too, who went on to pitch a lot of years in the big leagues. So some really good baseball players and some really good memories, with the guys that we played with.
Right. Yes. And let's see. So the '94 season there, you guys won 40 games, won the CAA tournament, went on to postseason, and then Pat McMahon left, and then Tony Guzzo came down from Richmond and took over. And in '95 and '96, you guys didn't miss a beat. You know, both years won 39 games in the regular season, and ended up winning the tournament there as the tournament moved to Kinston. So talk about your junior and senior years.
Well, that there was a big transition when Mac left and Guz came in, but both of those guys were great leaders, great baseball people, and people that cared deeply about the players, and that's what showed. '95 was a little rocky in some respects. The transition was easier for some than others. But overall, the guys, like you said, on the field didn't skip a beat. What was really interesting about '95 was when we got to the tournament, there were some injuries. Myself, a couple other guys were injured, and it really showed the depth of the team. Guys like Mike Henderson stepping up to play big roles in the tournament, and leading us to the regionals and going. Once we got to the regionals, I wasn't playing. I know Gibby was hurt for at least part of it, or testing my memory a little bit now. But I mean, we got off to a 2-0 start in that regional, and then ran into Jonathan Johnson pitching for Florida State, and we didn't make it out of there. But the guys, the depth of the team, the quality of the players was really evident top to bottom.
Right. Yes, and I saw that in '94 you were at first base there for the Monarchs, and then '95 and '96 you moved behind the plate there with being their starting catcher.
Yeah, when I came in, I was a catcher in high school. My first couple of years, my freshman year, I didn't play much at all. I got 20 or so at bats that first year, and I think most of them were on the first weekend because we were playing Coppin State, and I got into a lot of games when we were up big. '94, I kind of started out as the utility first base, outfield, a little third, DH, that kind of stuff. And then when Mike Cowell left after '94 or '95, you know it better than I do, but the last 2 years I caught predominantly. And yeah, so that's how once Guz was there, he really worked with me a lot on trying to get me drafted as a catcher and try to fine tune what I was doing, and it worked. So I owe him a lot for that.
Right. Yes. And can't remember if it was '94 or '95, but certainly remember William and Mary Old Dominion game in Williamsburg, and my brother was pitching, and it was a pitcher's duel, and you took them deep, and Old Dominion ended up winning a close game. And as I was reading there, you finished your collegiate career there as a Monarch, hitting 400. So definitely great years here in Norfolk as a Monarch.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I remember some of those games with William and Mary. I think that '94 one, for some reason, their field wasn't ready or something, and we played at some sort of a city park. And
yes,
and actually one of their better players at the time was a guy named Mike Roberti, who I had played against in high school. And he might have hit a couple homers in that weekend series. And they had some good teams. And once Jim Farr got up there, the pitching turned around, and they knew how to pitch us, and we always had tight games with them. So that was really interesting. And he really knew how to pitch to me. I know that I struggled to hit against those guys. So any hit I got against them was a bonus.
Right. Yes. I remember that series with Old Dominion. It was off Ironbound Road, but now the William Mary baseball program has a baseball field there off campus, and no more moving to city fields. But yeah, Mike Roberti, he was there playing playing outfield. Hey, so let's see. Last night we missed you, but definitely had a great time there with Gibby and Marty, and then a junior high friend of mine, Nick Ardania, that was a freshman there on the '96 team, and he said that since he was back up to an All-American behind home plate, he could DH sometimes, you know. But it was a great time, and what Marty and Nick were saying about the '96 team was, you know, they had quite a few young guys there that made a great impact there with the Monarchs to keep it going for 3 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big difference. You know, Gibby got drafted, a couple of the other guys left, transferred out. You know, Brett Wheeler had left. So we really relied, I think we had an all freshman infield, you know, and a couple of the pitchers were young too. So, you know, we had Marty and Jesse and some of those guys that really picked up the slack, and Justin Kreider. Yeah, position player wise, we were really young and we relied on those guys. And fortunately, you know, they played really well. Anthony Forelli, Eric Fulmer, Tony Gazelle, those guys, they played really well for us. And, you know, we had Ron Walker at the time too. I think he was a sophomore at that time. So they were talented, and it was just a different cast of characters, but the guys played really well. And unfortunately, when we got to the regionals, we kind of ran into a buzzsaw with a really good pitcher from Georgia Southern and another team from, you know, another starter from Clemson that we just couldn't do much against.
But hey, so we talked about while you were a student athlete there at Old Dominion, but then what was next? What was next for you? Tell the listeners out there what was after your time at Old Dominion. What was next for you?
Well, I was fortunate to get drafted in '96, and I played 7 years in the minor leagues. Not a very illustrious career by any means. You know, I had a couple decent seasons and a couple injury-plagued seasons. So, you know, I played 7 minor league years with the Devil Rays at the time, and got up to AAA as an extra player. By the time I got to AAA, I had been passed by just about everybody else in the organization. So I kind of was hanging on for dear life at that point. Signed with the Yankees as a minor league free agent in 2003, got released out of spring training. And then in 2004, started my coaching career kind of accidentally with the Devil Rays in short season, when another coach kind of resigned to start doing private lessons in Miami. And so I coached 4 years in the New York Penn League, coached and managed, and then a couple of years in A-ball. And then I transitioned to a hitting coordinator for 4 years. And after that, I was hired by the Indians to go to the major leagues as the assistant hitting coach, and spent 4 years there, and was fortunate enough to come back to Tampa as a third base coach for a year. And then we had our bench coach leave to go manage the Blue Jays, Charlie Montoyo. So I've been in that role for 3 years. So when I look back at it, you know, it's been 17, 18 years of coaching, which has flown by after a pretty short playing career. But, you know, so that's what I've been up to in baseball.
Right. Yes. And let's see. And this year's Monarch team, Coach Finwood, they now have for the last few years been in Conference USA, but they're I think in a week and a half they're the 4 seed. They're in the Conference USA tournament. They've finished the regular season with 36 wins there on the regular season, and then the Conference USA tournament will be down in Louisiana. So Monarchs certainly having a great season.
Yeah, I've been following. You know, I still text with Coach Guzzo and with Finney, and keep in touch. It's kind of energized the alumni a little bit too. Guys are really following and, seeing what's going on. And I know Finney's really a quality guy, and I know that the players are doing it the right way. And it's really fun to watch from a distance. And, that league, that's amazing to me. They travel all over the place for that. Our trips were all bus trips up, in the state pretty much, but they're all over the place, logging some serious miles. But yeah, I wish them all the best, and it's really fun to watch from a distance.
Yeah, because they're in the CAA, William and Mary, VCU, Richmond, George Mason, James Madison, and then even in North Carolina, East Carolina and Wilmington,
Yeah.
just to name a couple out of states that aren't far. But now with Conference USA, I mean, they're playing a 2-game series with La Tech sometime this week, and then with the tournament being down there, they're just gonna stay down there, with the tournament and the conference being so spread out.
That's the fun time for those guys, man. It's like school's over. It's
Right.
all baseball. They get to be with the guys and hang out and just try to win it all, man. Those are the times you never forget.
Right. Yes. And so with the success that Old Dominion's baseball program had there in the mid '90s, and Marty Plank with being from Virginia Beach, him and my brother first met up against each other in Pony 13-14 All Stars back in the late '80s, and then they faced off in high school before again meeting in college. But I reached out to Marty, reconnected with him through Old Dominion having football, and so I just texted Marty and Nick about a month ago, and I asked them about this idea that I had with doing a podcast, and they were all on board, and appreciate Marty having me getting in touch with you, because it's definitely been fun, doing the episode last night with those three, because Gibby, he was coming back from a high school game, so he was coming in there while he was on the go. So,
Well, man, you got a cast of characters together. So, but that's really cool, because those guys were, a big part, we were all a big part of each other's lives in, our formative days of being in college. And, there's probably still 15 to 20 of us that keep in really close contact from those years. And, that's really cool for me. It's just that those guys, we all knew each other when we were young and just trying to figure things out. And I don't know if I have anything else figured out by now, but those guys were there when we were growing up, and it's really cool to really see how everyone's lives have gone on, but we still all have that connective tissue from being back there at ODU.
Right. Yes, and I did reach out to Jesse James and Tommy Staples and Justin, but they had other things. But maybe we can all get back on later. Let's see. Any other final thoughts here? With appreciate your time, and there with Old Dominion, or what. I know that Ryan Yarborough, another former Monarch, is a current Rays pitcher. But any final thoughts here as we wrap up?
No, I appreciate you doing this. This is fun, and obviously, I hope the Monarchs win it all this year and get back to the tournament and make some noise. We're still looking for that first College World Series appearance.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So thanks for having me.
Oh, sure, no problem. Yeah, I know that Finney was involved with VMI baseball there when you guys played at Old Dominion, and then my brother and his teammates playing for Far there, William and Mary. So it's just a small world, Their leading JMU is Eikenberry, and he was involved as a player there at VMI there in the mid '90s.
Yep, it's all connected, man.
But All right, Matt. Well, hey, good luck. Good luck the rest of the season here with the Rays, and that's about it. And as we stop, if you could stay on for a second, I'd just like to ask you another question.
All right.
All right. So that's a wrap here for this afternoon as we had ODU baseball alum and current Rays bench coach Matt Quatraro with us. All right.